Hello, everybody. My name is Jimmy Lemke, and you are listening to the newest episode of the Horizon Roundtable podcast. Obviously, the podcast usually starts with Bob McDonald, introducing himself, and then me or whoever else is on the podcast this week. I'm doing this alone. Bob is out of town, unable to record this week, which is unfortunate because we're going to be talking some Cleveland State stuff, specifically stuff that happened on Dennis Felton's radio show. We'll also be talking about what was said on that show as pertains to the Horizon League tournament. We'll be talking about the conference heading into the Horizon League tournament in a couple weeks. Just a couple weeks left before that gets kicked off. And then we're also going to be, talking about just the teams at large and obviously the continuing of the budding rivalry between Wright State and Northern Kentucky. They played their rivalry game Friday night at the Nutter Center in Fairborn, Ohio, right outside Dayton, and just wanted to get a chance to really talk about those. So we're gonna have a probably shorter podcast today, not quite as long. I know I like hearing myself talk, but I don't think everybody's gonna want to hear just Jimmy for an hour and a half. So we're gonna make sure this goes a little bit shorter than normal. Make sure that everybody's doing all right. So once again, this podcast, the Horizon Roundtable, is on sportshax.com. That's sportshax.com. You can find the podcast wherever the podcast is, podcasts can be found. If you enjoy listening to me ramble or listening to Bob get riled up for different reasons, feel free to subscribe. We'd love to have more people, listening and participating every week. If you have any questions or anything, you can reach us on Twitter is usually the easiest way, at Bob McDonald for Bob, who's not here right now, and then at Panther U for me. That's Panther, the letter U. I've been on Twitter for, about 10 years now. So I just wanted to, get things kicked off here. Let's talk about that Northern Kentucky Wright State game. The Norse obviously won by 4 down in the Cincinnati suburbs, Highland Heights, Kentucky earlier. It was a 4-point game, and then you turn around and Wright State takes the game at the Nutter Center, and what do you know? It was a 4-point game. This is it's exciting to see that the two best teams in the conference are really able to play each other so evenly. Just looking at this game right here, I always look at the 4 factors of winning a basketball game, because if you can win the 4 factors, you're going to have a very good shot at winning your basketball game. So the funny thing is, right, in this game, the 4 factors of basketball, Northern Kentucky had a 60% efficient field goal percentage. That the EFG percentage is just like a normal field goal percentage, just counts the 3-point field goal for 1.5 times a 2-point field goal, which is obviously just how it actually is. So that's how it weights it. Is how it has the weight. So really, Northern Kentucky is 63.2% to 60%. They won that. Then you go to the turnover percentage. Northern Kentucky only 18.2% compared to Wright State's 19.5%. Very close. Again, your offensive rebound percentage, Northern Kentucky had about a 2.5-point edge there. And then your free throws per field goal attempts, your free throw rate. This seems to really be where Wright State kind of had the edge, because they had a 26.4% free throw rate, whereas Northern Kentucky at 8.3%. It was a lopsided in favor of Wright State, and would have been mostly evenly matched other than that. So if you look at Wright State's scores, they had 20 free throw attempts. Northern Kentucky only had 7. Northern Kentucky did a solid job. They made 5 of 7, which is decent. Wright State 14 out of 20, but you're making 14 free throws and your opponent's only attempting half of that. Your basketball team's going to do pretty well for itself. So Wright State pulls off the win there. The They force the tie in the the Horizon League standings. They're now a full 2 games ahead, along with Northern Kentucky, a full 2 games ahead of the tied for 3rd place Green Bay Phoenix and the UIC Flames. Oakland and Youngstown State are only half a game behind those because they've got the 1 extra loss. Detroit Mercy a game behind Oakland and Youngstown State at 7-8. Ooey Pooey is 6-8 in the conference, and bringing up the rear, Milwaukee at 4-10 and Cleveland State at 3-12. Cleveland State won the battle of the bad teams last week. This week it's back to the same for Milwaukee. It's just more of a problem. We're 9-18 on a season now. Cleveland State's 8-20. I don't have to tell you that those suck. Those numbers are just bad. We're both kind of on the other side of the coin from the Norse and Raiders up there. One thing that the other 8 teams have is they have the spots right now to get into the Horizon League tournament, because in their infinite wisdom, John LeCrone and the Horizon League have decided to change formats for this year to distract everybody from the fact that nobody wants anything to do with that neutral site tournament. So the Horizon League tournament is only bringing in the top 8 teams. So at this point, Milwaukee and Cleveland State are on the outside looking in. The Milwaukee Panthers, with only a few games left, four conference games left, they've got to pick up 2 games. IUPUI's got to drop 2 games in the standings for them to catch them. Cleveland State is going to need a whole lot more help than that. So it's pretty set. We're expecting that Milwaukee and Cleveland State will be the 2 teams. It's a 2-game deficit in 4 games is pretty rough. IUPUI, 6-8 isn't great, but it's good enough to get into the Horizon League tournament, which it should be a great segue for us, because as we know, this was something that's new for the 2018-19 season. The Horizon League adopting this top 8 only rule. And it was something that was really funny that came across in Dennis Felton's radio show, is that the Horizon League's actually looking to take that another step further. As it stands right now, there's no announcement, nobody has mentioned in an official capacity, but they are considering, according to Dennis Felton on his radio show, that they are considering for the move next year that the Horizon League tournament at the Farmers Coliseum, which we'll get into that as well, don't worry, will only take the top 4 teams in the Horizon League, which is, I don't have to tell you, is absolutely ridiculous. What is the point of having a conference tournament if 60% of your conference is not in the tournament? Don't get me wrong, I understand the arguments for it. Top 4 teams, you're sending a good team no matter what. That's fair. If you're sending, if you're taking out the 5 through 10 seeds, it's not seeds, but 5 through 10 in the standings, you don't have to worry about, oh my God, Milwaukee versus Northern Kentucky in 2017, or oh my God, Cleveland State getting to the final. There's just you don't have to worry about that. I get it. They had to, in their minds, drop the 9 and 10 seed for this year because they want the Horizon League to get back to putting the best team possible in the Horizon League tournament, or the NCAA tournament, and they want them to put themselves in position to win games and win units. And frankly, it's fucking horseshit. What it really is about is it's about eliminating what makes college basketball great. Every sport, every professional sport, every team is eliminated. Every team outside the playoffs or the postseason is eliminated from the postseason as soon as their record is bad. In college basketball, aside from the Ivy League, which actually not even aside from the Ivy League because they've got their tournament now, every school in the country, all 350 plus, at the end of their season, their regular season, they still have a shot. There's still reason for hope for those schools that want to make it into the big dance, the greatest postseason of all postseasons. They all want to be in it. So they're all able to position themselves that you can go 0-28, and if you get into the conference tournament and you somehow put it together, you can make enough noise that you can walk away with your conference tournament championship and a ticket into the NCAA tournament. It's one of the wonderful romantic traits that college basketball alone has. And one of the many of the things that make college basketball great have fallen to the wayside over the years. Conferences are getting more and more far-flung. Rutgers and Maryland are in the Big Ten. West Virginia is in the Big 12. I think Florida State might be in the Pac-12 at this point. The horizon in our conference, we've seen, just since I was a freshman in 2005 at Milwaukee, we have seen, we have lost some of our best teams. We lost Butler. It's 2 Final Fours, a couple Sweet 16s. We lost Valparaiso. They've done things. Not in the NCAA tournament for the Horizon League, but they've, done things. And we lost, one of our, bad teams. I know Loyola just went to the Final Four, but just to refresh everybody's memory, this conference kicked the shit out of them for like 10 years, unless you're Youngstown State. Tradition falls by the wayside too much in college basketball. You don't have the best product. The NBA is the best product of actual basketball on court. So you have to keep tradition alive. And the reason that this tradition is falling to the wayside isn't really because John LeCrone wants to put the best teams in their NCAA tournament. It's because the Horizon League and John LeCrone want to save money. This Motor City sadness that we've had the last 3 years, and we're coming in on the next one. This has been a tournament that has paid us money because Olympia Entertainment, that owns the LCA, needed to set themselves up because they were auditioning for the Big Ten tournament. They needed some college tournament to get into their arena so that they could, show themselves as a viable option for the big tournaments, and really the Big Ten tournaments. That's the Midwest, except for unless you're Maryland and Rutgers. The downside of that is that Olympia was using us. And every Horizon League fan 4 years ago knew that Olympia was using us. Every fan knew about it. So when Olympia decided to drop it, Horizon League was no longer getting his $200,000 a year payday to have the tournament in Detroit in front of the dozens and dozens of fans. I will say that the final in 2017 that I attended was pretty well attended for the fact that it was a team from 6 hours away playing another team from 6 or 8 hours away. But it's the destination tournaments, it doesn't fit us. The Horizon League is not a conference of traveling fan bases, so it never made sense in the first place. But now that they lost out on it, they decide that now we're going to Indy and the Farmers Coliseum, and don't worry, Northern Kentucky fans, I'm going to get to it. Now that they're going down to the Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis, you have a Horizon League that's not going to get money from that. As far as I know, the Horizon League's not going to get paid. So that's $200,000 that's out the window. So if that's money you don't have, what can you do? Because the Horizon League around the conference, they're looking to cut costs because they don't want to spend the money to do this destination tournament. Big surprise. So what's LeCrone's idea? Well, if we only do 4 teams, then that's only 3 games we need to staff. 2 semifinals, 1 final. It's only 3 games we need to staff. The 5 through 10 seeds aren't gonna, matter anyways. It's not like they've won since. Oh wait, that's right, 2014. These games, you only have 3 of them. You don't have to pay for much. you're going to put a better team in anyways. And hey, let's do it in Indy where I don't have to pay for the hotels and travel for my staff. I just have to, feed them a boxed lunch or something. It's really what it is. We can talk all day about the competitive benefits of only having your top 4 teams, but at the end of the day, it's about saving money. It's about pinching pennies, and it's just wrong. You're killing off what makes college basketball great. And John LeCrone, man, the guy's always in a state of constant revolution. He's the model of college basketball. He came up with, or at least, we give him the credit for, this conference tournament format that kind of started in the early 2000s, but really didn't fully kick on exactly what it was until 2004. He had this format that was an actual revolution across college basketball. The top 2 seeds get a double bye to the semifinals. The home team in the number 1 seed hosts the quarterfinals and semifinals. The top remaining seed hosts the final. The Oakland Grizzlies have been in the conference just a little bit. They were only in it for a couple of years before the move to Motor City Madness. Northern Kentucky fans out there, you guys have only been here long enough to know what Motor City Madness is, really. Really. Schools fans at school, do fans at Cleveland State hate it? No, I'm sure they don't hate going up to Detroit. I'm sure IUPUI fans are going to have a problem going to the Farmers Coliseum, their own home. But honestly, the tournament was built to win, and it did. The Horizon League tournament from 2004 through, was it 2016? 2016 was the last. 2015 was the last year. 2015 was 14 or 15. Can't remember. The Horizon League tournament was made for 2015. It was made to put the best team in the tournament. You're the number 1 seed. You earned it through the regular season. You earned that opportunity to chill. You got to hang back and then get the easiest path to the tournament. The number 2 seed, you got an easy path to the tournament, but you had to be able to beat a better team on their home floor if seeds held and you got to the finals. So the number 2 seed was, had an easy road, but not quite as easy as the top seed. And if you were 3 through 10 or 9 in some years, if you were there, you had to win 4 games in a week. The Tuesday night at the campus sites, the Friday quarterfinal, immediate Saturday semifinal the next night, and then Tuesday final at the top remaining seed. That conference tournament format gave birth to more NCAA tournament victories than any conference outside of the high majors and the Atlantic 10. And it might have been the Atlantic 10 too. Now, I know what you're thinking. Butler was in the NCAA tournament. They went to 2 Final Fours, so of course, those 5 victories each year, 10 wins. If you take out Butler's 2 Final Fours, the Horizon League still had the most NCAA tournament victories outside of the high majors and the A-10. And guess what? That was because of the format. Take it year by year. 2004, nobody was good enough to really win in the NCAA tournament. Milwaukee lost to UIC in the final. 2005, Milwaukee barely ekes it out. 1-point win over Detroit. Sweet 16. The next year, Milwaukee easily holds court, whops everybody, beats Oklahoma. 2007, Wright State wins wins the right to host. Butler, very strong team, but they didn't take care of it enough to host it at Henkel. Wright State wins the Horizon League tournament and gets there. Do they win their game in the tournament? No. Butler took a Sweet 16 there. 2008, 2009, Butler. You got to win there. 2010 and 11, you had the Final Fours, and I'll tell you what, Butler hosting in 2010, Milwaukee was, Ricky Franklin was a 3-pointer away from tying it with about a minute and a half left. The Panthers had been, pretty much neck and neck with Butler throughout that second half, and it just missed. I mean, they were playing out, and if he had hit it, the wind would have been out of the sails in Hinkle. It wouldn't have been crazy to think that Milwaukee could have won that game. You put that semifinal on a neutral site. Does Milwaukee win that game? It's entirely possible. Look what happened in Detroit. Oakland losing. Look at the high seeds that lose in the Horizon League tournament in Detroit. Is that because they're not good enough? No, it's because the format was built to make money for the conference, and it wasn't built to win. Put the best team in the tournament. 2011, there was a three-way tie. Milwaukee won the Horizon League tournament, or won the Horizon League regular season, rights to host the tournament, but Butler got there, and that was their second Final Four. If that format had been a neutral site tournament, it's entirely possible that Butler or Milwaukee or whoever would have made it to the NCAA tournament, it's entirely possible that it would have been somebody else, because that Butler team wasn't as good as the one the previous year. And you can say, oh well, in 2010, Butler could have lost and still made the NCAA tournament, and yeah, absolutely, but they would have lost seed lines. If they had lost a neutral site tournament, if they lost in Detroit to Milwaukee at the Joe Louis Arena, they would have dropped a seed line at minimum. I mean, we're mid-majors. The selection committee, no matter who's on it, is always looking to screw us over. We have to remember this. We have to remember that the NCAA doesn't want us there. So we have to do what we can to put our best foot forward and put our best teams in the tournament. Because if you don't put the best teams in the tournament, you get shit like what we've had the last few years. No NCAA tournaments. Valparaiso, one of the strongest teams in conference history, losing the conference tournament and getting forced to go to the NIT. And what did they do? They almost won the NIT. They probably would have been a Sweet 16, maybe an Elite 8, possibly a Final Four. And the reason they weren't is because they got screwed by a stupid format. If that tournament had been in the arc, Valpo's home court advantage in the semifinal and final would have been astronomically high. It's about protecting the best teams. And if those teams still lose, like say Green Bay in 2014, that means that they weren't the best team at the beginning of March. In 2014, Milwaukee was the best team on March 10th or March 11th, whatever the championship day was. Because Green Bay, who had been the strongest team all season, had their best two players banged up. Kiefer Sykes and Alec Brown probably shouldn't have been playing, or at least they were hobbled. And because they weren't at full strength, they weren't a team at full strength, and somebody else won. In 2009, Cleveland State, Gary Waters, and his, Jonathan Bullock, Cedric Jackson, and those guys. Yeah, Jackson hit that, three-quarter court bomb against Syracuse for that upset that year. But it wasn't like they weren't that was a fluke. Cleveland State was a very good team. They didn't quite put it together in the Horizon League regular season, so they had to do it in the tournament. And guess what they did? They won a game at the Wolstein Center, and then a quarterfinal, semifinal at Hinkle Fieldhouse, and just won the whole thing as a 3 seed. And what happened when they got in the tournament? Oh, that's right, they went to the second round. The Horizon League tournament was built for winning. Now it's built for get us the money up front because we don't think we have anybody who's strong enough that can win NCAA tournament games and get us units that can be distributed among everybody. So the Butler money's gone. And that sucks, but it is what it is. And don't think for 1 second that Valparaiso did not run to the Missouri Valley Conference because of what was being done to the Horizon League tournament. They very well could have had an Elite 8 or a Final Four run. And it was screwed up because John LeCrone always wants to do a little bit better. And Valpo was very, very strong, and they didn't make it. They had to settle for the NIT and, going flat in the final of the NIT, the not invited tournament. You have to protect your top teams, and that's partially what the format. The format was all about that. It wasn't partially. It wasn't protecting the top teams. It wasn't just about protecting the top teams from losing in the conference tournament. It was also about protecting the top teams from wanting to leave. Butler became Butler because of that conference tournament format. They had everything else in line, sure, but there are other schools that have a great culture. There are other schools that have great coaching, and there are other schools that have great recruiting and great recruiting hotbeds, and have nice fan bases. But Butler was Butler's one of us, man. They only averaged like 500 or 1,000 more than Wright State did in the, in attendance when they were in the Horizon League. Milwaukee beat them like 10 out of the last 22 or 23 times we played them. It wasn't like they didn't belong. 2010, their first Final Four, was really the only year where Butler absolutely smoked the rest of the Horizon League. That was the only year. And they still almost lost in the tournament. But thankfully for them, they were protected and they didn't lose a seed line and they went to the Final Four, and Gordon Hayward was a couple inches away from making the greatest story in sports history. Fast forward to today. Dennis Felton's radio show earlier in the week. The Horizon League's talking about only bringing the top 4 teams. So what happens after that? I talk about protecting the top teams. We're talking about protecting the top teams from not only from not wanting to, not only from losing in the Horizon League tournament, but also from, you guessed it, losing. Wanting to leave. It was getting away from wanting to leave. I'm going to read February 12th. This is at the beginning of this week. February 12th, 2019. This is on Northern Kentucky letterhead. Dear Norse basketball supporter, since the announcement from the Horizon League awarding the 2020 to 2022 Horizon League basketball championships to Indianapolis and the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, we have received several questions asking why Indianapolis is able to host the men's basketball championship in IUPUI's home facility. Coming out of our fall Horizon League meetings, the Horizon League Council voted to not allow a community to bid on the men's and women's tournament if it included playing in what is considered an institution's home facility. When the bid process was announced in mid-October, this condition was clearly communicated by the Horizon League through its press release, which stated that the community's competition venue may not be the primary home venue for a Horizon League member institution. On the basis of this requirement, the Cincinnati CVB and Sports Commission partnered with the U.S. Bank Arena to submit a bid for hosting instead of our home venue, the BB&T Arena. I understand that the venue vetting process, several factors were considered, including whether to reopen the bidding process. Given the need to reach a final decision sooner rather than later, the choice of hosting the tournament in Indianapolis was announced on January 25th. It is both disappointing and frustrating that Cincinnati CVB and the Sports Commission and Northern Kentucky University were not afforded an opportunity to submit a bid to host in BB&T Arena, and as I'm confident, we would have put together a very attractive bid. The Horizon League board will discuss the matter in more detail during the summer meeting, but rest assured that I have and will continue to communicate our concerns to the league office and Commissioner John LeCrone. Please know that your support is important to NKU. We want you to know that we are doing all we can to continue the positive growth of our basketball programs and will continue to work hard each day, along with our coaches and student athletes, to make Norse Nation proud. Thank you for your continued support of Northern Kentucky basketball. Go Norse. Ken Butoff, Director of Athletics. Mark that down. February 12th, 2019. The first day Northern Kentucky started actively looking for a new home for its athletics program. John LeCrone always wants to evolve. He's constantly hunting for a legacy. John, if you're listening, you got that legacy 15 years ago, and just about every decision you make tarnishes it even further. It's what you've always done. Back in 1999, the Horizon League was looking to add another school. They had been just coming off the 98 season when they had put 3 teams, Detroit, USC, and Butler, in the NCAA tournament, 3 out of 8, which is incredible. They wanted to keep getting stronger. So the Horizon League was looking at the what they could do to expand membership and get better. And we should all know who was at it, but before they were, there was a school that was concorded first, and that was Valparaiso. Valparaiso University's athletics program, they were also coming off a great 98 NCAA tournament. Bryce Drew, Sweet 16. They owned Northwestern Indiana. It was a big time, the biggest of times for that program and that university. Lutherans around the world rejoiced, and the Horizon League courted them, the Midwestern Collegiate Conference courted them, but unfortunately, Valparaiso turned it down. That's the story that's always been out. that because the Valparaiso's then athletic director was, I believe, the father of the commissioner of the Mid-Continent Conference, their own conference, that connection was enough for them to say that they'll pass. But this isn't about Valparaiso passing and then coming later. This is about what John LeCrone does. John LeCrone, the Horizon League, thought, okay, let's what are we gonna do next? Oh yeah, let's go and let's go and get somebody. The team that they got was a team that was coming off a second, like a 2 seed in their tournament. They seemed to be getting stronger. They fit the bill. They were like a couple schools in the conference already. They were a member of the same university, the same university system, and that's how we got Youngstown State University. And we've been biting on that ever since. There was a time my freshman year when Milwaukee, which would go on to win a game in the tournament, played. They were 34 or 44 in the RPI, and they beat Youngstown State 98-68. I remember the score because if they scored 100, we got like free chicken or I can't remember what it was. There was some promotion. And Miles McKay missed 2 buckets in the last minute. That would have put us at the 100 that they needed for the promotion. And the next day, I checked the UWM Freak message board, and lo and behold, we were 72 in the RPI. John LeCrone's knee-jerk reaction 7 years later screws up the program. It wasn't like Youngstown State had been really strong for a long time. Youngstown State lost. They were just getting good, and then they fell off again because it's Youngstown State. Whether it was in the Mid-Con or the MCC, now the Horizon League, it doesn't matter. Youngstown State's Youngstown State. They are what they are. They are who we thought they were. R.I.P. Deggree. So Horizon League got stuck with them. They got it right later. Brought in Valpo, came to around 10. Fantastic. Then they lose Butler. Crap. Back to the 9 for the 1 year, and then we're going to lose. Well, let's get Oakland. So they got Oakland. Adding Valpo was good. Adding Oakland was good. Adding Northern Kentucky was good. I was speaking with 2 or 3. I spoke with a few of the chancellors and presidents around Horizon, just through email, and Mike Lovell at our school. In other form of communication, and the unanimous agreement was that Northern Kentucky is a sleeping giant. Milwaukee botched its move to Division I. Dr. Erica Sander, who used to be the women's basketball coach at UWM 30 some years ago, shared with me the Senate minutes from when Bud Haiti came and asked to move to Division I, and surprisingly to me, I thought that the Senate would have been like turning it down. Really, actually, they were all on board when we go into Division I, but they wanted to take their time. They wanted to get facilities right. They wanted to get, and these are all problems that the program still has today. The game arena is great now, but it's still too big for the team, and it's still not on campus, which is fine. This is going to be a program that's going to be for the whole city, anyways. And we rushed it. Northern Kentucky didn't. They built the Bank of Kentucky Center, which is now the BB&T Arena. They built a new baseball stadium. They built a new soccer stadium. They took their time getting the program ready to move to Division I, and then they did it. So Northern Kentucky, whereas Milwaukee had time to stagnate, time to not take advantage of its positive traits and sort of fall off. Our Sweet 16, the whole Bruce Pearl time was already 12, 13 years after the move to Division I. So Milwaukee really wasn't in position to fully take advantage of that success. And it wasn't built to sustain it long term. That can still be done. It's a whole hell of a lot harder because you have people who know that a lot of years of being in Division I, UWM basketball kind of sucked. Or, the game experience is bad because you'd only have a handful of people at games. There were those years, so people accepted that. The rest of the athletics department moved to Division I, the rest of the university stayed in D3. Northern Kentucky, when they moved to Division I, the whole school went to Division I. And you see it on their fan base. They push everybody out there. They've got dozens of fans on Twitter. There's 1 million Panther U's, and that's great. That's what there should be. Northern Kentucky is destined for greater things. And John LeCrone, bless his heart, is doing everything in his power to expedite the process of getting Northern Kentucky out of the Horizon League. If you're legacy hunting, LeCrone, the best thing you can do for your legacy, call it quits. It's time to retire, time to resign, time to move on. Valparaiso was a great ad. Oakland was a great ad. Northern Kentucky was a great ad. And a trained monkey could have seen all of those. They were obvious. They were all obvious. So, call it quits. And if you want to keep Northern Kentucky in the conference, you might want to reopen that bid process, because that's a joke. It's as much of a joke as that top 4 seeds in the Horizon League tournament alone. As much of a joke as the double elimination plan that you were hoping to get the NCAA approved, that anybody could have told you they weren't going to approve. Stupid ideas. Your constant revolutions need to stop. A lot of what you do kills the conference. I'm in Milwaukee, so our leadership tends to, fall on our own sword. You know that you were part of it with Geiger. So I want to thank everybody for listening. It's about 9 o'clock on Sunday night. This should be up tomorrow. As always, you can catch us on sportshax.com. That's sportshax.com. My name is Jimmy Lemke. You can find me on Twitter at PantherU. Unfortunately, Bob wasn't here this week, but I think I did all right on my own. We tried to do it last night in a crowded bar, and there was too much noise. It wouldn't have worked, especially with this microphone that catches everything, and you can hear me tapping over here. So I do want to thank everybody who listened to me ramble on this. I really hope the Horizon League tournament turns out really well. I think that everybody loves watching Wright State and Northern Kentucky claw at each other from the top. There are still great things about this conference. We're still, we haven't become the SWAC and MEAC, thankfully. We're not as good as we used to be, but there's room for hope. I just hope that we can get back to hoping. It would be nice if the conference would earn that hope for us, because right now I'm leaning a little bit on the pessimistic side. So again, thanks for listening. You can find us on pretty much anywhere podcasts are. I subscribe through podcasts. There's also Google Play, Spotify, iTunes. I don't know if we're on SoundCloud anymore. If we're not, we should get on SoundCloud. All in all, anywhere you can get sportshax.com, or you can you just call my cell phone and I'll ramble in your ear for an hour if you want. Thanks again. I hope everybody has a good week. Hopefully next week Bob and I will be back, and we'd like to get another guest, so you're not just listening to Jimmy talk for an hour. So thanks again. To better tomorrows, and let's enjoy some basketball.